All right, Brandon, it's been a few weeks since I have hosted the pod, so we haven't been able to catch up on the latest in TV or movies. But, I was going to bring up Paradise is back. I think you're a Paradise watcher. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm a big fan. I remember you and I talked about it last season on this pod.
Yeah, so I read some mixed reviews that season 2 hasn't been as good as season 1. I'm about 4 episodes in to season 2. What are your thoughts so far?
Oh, I love it. Like, it's definitely different than season 1. Like, season 1 spent so much time in one location, and it was a certain kind of show, and I'm trying not to spoil. Season 2 definitely goes in a different direction, and there's been, like, episodes dedicated to one specific character. And there's a couple of new characters that we didn't see at all in season 1. So I guess that's probably throwing some people off because we're spending so much time with people we didn't even know in season 1. But man, I like the direction they're going. I think it's really, really good. And I like the new characters, and I like the new situations that we're seeing these characters in. I think it's great.
Yeah, I've enjoyed it too. I've been intrigued by the episodes that I've seen, and I don't think it's a spoiler to say that I found it fascinating that Graceland has served a pretty important part of the story, and it's been interesting to see what they've done with Graceland after this disaster that led to the Paradise Bunker being created.
Yeah, yeah, and I like the whole like Elvis, Graceland. It's a fun like backdrop and setting. Uh, it's unexpected. It's fun. I love Paradise. I love season 1, and I love season 2 so far. And I think that where they're going, and we're spending a little bit. We're getting to know some backstories of like our main character, and I don't know. I think it's great. I I would say bull to all the any bad reviews. I disagree.
Welcome back to the Daily Thunder podcast. I'm John Napier, publisher of Daily Thunder, and I'll be your host today. Alongside me is Daily Thunder beat writer Brandon Rabar. Brandon, as I mentioned in the cold open, it's been a few weeks since I've been on the pod. How you been doing?
Been doing good. Been enjoying some really good Thunder basketball lately. 6-game win streak, including a couple of like last second wins. It's been like really entertaining, fun Thunder basketball lately.
Yeah, you mentioned it's been a 6-game win streak. Would it surprise you, and you probably know this, I mean, this is the longest win streak the Thunder have had since they started the season 24-1.
Yeah. I think that 24-1 start obviously like set expectations, extremely high. All the talk about beating the Bulls and Warriors record, 74 wins, joining the 70 win club, and all those things. Obviously taking a step back now that the season has gone on, and all these injuries that the Thunder have dealt with, throughout the season. The fact that the Thunder are still the top overall record, the fact that here we are still dealing with all these injuries, and they're in the midst of a 6-game win streak with some really good wins in that streak, by the way. I think that they're playing. They were never going to win 74 games, obviously, with all these injuries. But I think the level of play that they're at right now is starting to match that 24-1 start that we saw earlier. They're playing that type of basketball again.
Yeah, I agree. And you noted there have been some pretty good wins in that 6-0 run, including twice against the Nuggets, once against the Warriors, and a nail biter against the Knicks in Madison Square Garden. So it's not like it's been against subpar competition. And as you noted, I mean, they've been battling injuries the entire season long and are still not healthy. I mean, in the game against the Nuggets were pretty well healthy, except not having Peyton Watson. But the Thunder were down J-Dub, they were down Chet, and still came away with a win.
Yeah, I think that Nuggets win, like you said, they only were missing Peyton Watson. And it wasn't just Chet and J-Dub. They're also still missing Isaiah Hartenstein and Alex Caruso. So you're missing 4 of your top 5 or 6 players, and you're missing your entire starting front court. You're missing the only players above 6'9" on the roster going up against Jokic and Valanciunas. Like, J. Will was the tallest player for the Thunder at 6'9", and then the next tallest was Kenrich Williams at 6'7" against the Nuggets and Jokic, and they come out with a win. I thought that was one of, if not the most impressive win of the season for the Thunder, given the circumstances, given the opponent, given the injuries. I think that was incredibly impressive.
100%. It was a really great win for the Thunder. You mentioned Jaylin Williams. We're going to talk about him a little bit later on the pod. But let's talk about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who I would say had his MVP defining game with his performance against the Nuggets. Not only did he tie Wilt Chamberlain's record of 126 straight games of 20 or more points, which, as a matter of consistency, is a mind-boggling number. I can't even wrap my head around 126 straight games of meeting that threshold and scoring. But he didn't stop at 20. He had 35 points. He had 15 assists. He had a steal, a block, 9 rebounds total, and he had 2 dagger threes in the final seconds of the game. Go through your thoughts on Shai's performance.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. The fact that he's going up against Jokic, this is like an MVP battle, and Shai, the playmaking really, really stood out. The 15 assists. The Nuggets sold out all game long to try to stop Shai. Doubles all game, traps all game, doing anything they could to slow down Shai. So not only does he score 35 points incredibly efficiently, he also hands out 15 assists and 0 turnovers. That's only the second time in NBA history that's ever been done to have 35-15 with 0 turnovers. Shai and LeBron, the only 2 players to ever do it. And then, of course, not 1, but 2 game winners. Unbelievable. Okay, so when it happened, I won't, say any names or anything like that, but I'm sitting on media row, and just the looks on faces, just the unbelievable, yeah, somebody said that's Michael Jordan type stuff. And it is what we're witnessing with Shai right now is Michael Jordan type stuff. The fact that he can control a game, take over a game, and decide, I'm going to get this shot, I'm going to make this shot. He does it twice, especially given the circumstances of that 4-point play and how all that went down. And, you could have just put your head down and be like, okay, let's get this to overtime and try to win it. Shai was unbelievable in that game. I think it's one of the greatest individual performances I've ever seen.
Yeah, and you mentioned Jokic, and I think a lot of people have thought that the MVP race is going to be between SGA, Jokic, and maybe Wemby as well. And Jokic had a great final minute as well, final minute and change. He had 2 really big threes. He scored 8 points in the final minutes of the game, including the 3 that led to the game-tying free throw by Jamal Murray. So as far as an MVP battle, it was there. But to me, I think the difference is what you noted. The way that the Nuggets were defending, they were blitzing, they were selling out, they were doubling SGA. They were intent on making somebody else beat them. And the Thunder couldn't really do that to Jokic. They were too short-handed in the front court to throw bodies at Jokic and try to take him out of the game. And in fact, among the injuries, the Thunder did not have Jokic stopper Alex Caruso in the lineup. And so Jokic was going to get his points. He was going to get his triple-double. Shai had to overcome the Nuggets throwing everything they had at him and still managed to score 35, 15, and make the 2 game winners when they were like, we were not going to let Shai beat us. And what did he do? He beat him.
Yeah. Yeah. You're exactly right. The game was set up in Jokic's favor, given all the players that were out on the Thunder side and the fact that the Nuggets were healthy. So you have this MVP battle. This is, by the way, 3 straight games this season with a head-to-head matchup against Jokic that Shai outplays Jokic, and the Thunder won all 3 of those games. So the Thunder are 3-0, and Shai's outplayed him. Also in the playoffs, they met last year in the semifinals. The Thunder win that series. Shai outplayed Jokic. Shai's the reigning MVP. He's the reigning Finals MVP. like this is a different discussion, but the whole best player in the world title, like Shai's resume and case, it's hard to argue against it right now. Like that, he's not the best player in the world. Like he's got all the things that would say and point to that he's the best player in the world. Like if it looks like the best player in the world, if it quacks like the best player in the world, he might be the best player in the world. I think he is.
And my thought, and I'm sure you're going to agree with this here, that if Shai just plays normal Shai the rest of this season, and the Thunder, I don't even know if they have to even get the number one seed, but if Shai just plays Shai basketball, do you think he's locked up the MVP?
Yeah, he should. He should have it locked up. Like, I think that he was, the heavy favorite and had it locked before this game. I think this game stamped it, cemented it. As long as he hits the 65 game minimum, he should have it. If you look at their cases, Shai and Jokic, obviously Jokic is always going to have the raw numbers, the points, rebounds, assists, and all that stuff. Shai's got an 11.5 game lead over Jokic. He's 3-0 versus Jokic. He's outplayed him in every game. And he has absurd, like all time type numbers himself. I don't think there's any case whatsoever where you could have Jokic. I think there's unfortunately going to be probably, I'm guessing, like a late push just because they'll want to see some sort of drama to have maybe Wemby, maybe a late Wemby campaign because the Spurs are hot. He's been playing really well lately. And if the Spurs were to take over the number one seed, but if you look at it, like he just doesn't have the case. Obviously, has the case for Defensive Player of the Year, given Defensive Player of the Year. But Shai has more points on better efficiency from the field, from 3-point line, from the free throw line, true shooting percentage, better assists, less turnovers. The only thing that Wemby has Shai on statistically is rebounds and blocks. Of course, he's going to have rebounds and blocks. Shai has him in every other category, and the Spurs have been healthy. Shai's been doing this with an injured team. I think it is clearly Shai.
And maybe to segue a little bit more about Shai, because we could spend the entire podcast talking about SGA, but he scored that 35 points with just 4 free throws, which is, Aaron Gordon had 8 free throws, I think, in the first quarter of that Nuggets matchup. But I'm going to go back to the game against the Warriors, and Steve Kerr made some comments post-game about SGA drawing contact and getting to the free throw line. And he said about Shai, he's incredibly clever. He knows exactly how to draw contact. It's all within the rules. I don't have a problem with Shai. I have a problem with the rules. Comments on that?
I just think that all these teams are getting beat, and it's just like you're looking for excuses of why you're getting beat. Like I just like when Mark Daigneault ever say this after getting beat by a player and kind of like throw it on, excuse it. No, you wouldn't see that. I think it's silly, honestly. Shai is not leading the league in free throw attempts. He is not second in free throw attempts. Like why is Shai always the talking point? I think it's because his team is all beating all these teams. Like nobody has a problem with Luka because the Lakers don't feel like a threat. They're not beating you every night. They don't have a problem with Denny Avdia or Giannis getting all the free throws that they get, or Austin Reeves, because those teams aren't regular beating teams. It's become a talking point, a narrative, all the social media discord, and unfortunately it's like found its way into post game pressers. And I think, reporters are asking about it, coaches and fans are talking about it. It's silly. I think Shai is second in the league in drives per game. He's led the league in drives per game for like 5 years before this one. No, he's getting the free throws he should be getting, and teams can't stop him, so they foul him.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of surprising to me that this narrative persists because there isn't any factor evidence to back up that Shai is getting to the line or drawing contact in any particular special way, especially when you look at the Lukas or the Hardens and the other people who are getting to the line, or you talk about, the 83-point game from Bam, where he had 43 free throws, I think, to get to 83 points.
Yeah.
It's not a narrative that rings true in any way, but I think you're right that people, they're just looking for ways to minimize Shai's accomplishments. And this is the best they could come up with.
Yeah, it's silly. It's you should be celebrating greatness. I think what Shea is doing right now is greatness, and it should be celebrated. And yeah, it's really unfortunate to try to minimize any of it. Yeah, and that Bam stuff was, I thought that was crazy.
Yeah, well, about that. So he had the 83-point game. It was very obvious that the Heat were dialed in to get him that record, right? It was, I think, manufactured a little bit.
Oh yeah,
You
a
think it's
lot.
good for the game, bad for the game?
I didn't particularly like it. I get it. It's fun. It's like a fun talking point, especially because it's Bam. It's not like any of like the elite scorers in the league. Like, so the fact that Bam does it, I just don't like the whole manufacture. Like, if you're gonna get the record, then get the record. But like, they left him in like a 25-point blowout. They were missing free throws on purpose to try to get the ball back to get him more shots. They were fouling uh, on the other end to try to, stop the game, stop the clock to get him more shots. He shot below league average from the field and from three and from the free throw line. I don't know. Like, I don't have any problem with Bam, and it's fun to talk about. And if anybody likes it, that's totally cool. But like, to me, like, those records are special, and to kind of get it in such a manufactured way, I think is a bit silly.
Well, I'm going to turn it around and ask you this question then. So let's be really optimistic. The Thunder are playing the Celtics tomorrow night. That's when Shea can go for the scoring streak record. Let's say they're up by 25 points against the Celtics in the fourth quarter, and Shea's sitting at 19 points with 5 minutes to go. Should Mark leave him in to get the record?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And maybe that sounds, after what I just said about Bam, maybe that sounds a certain way. But we're talking about 126 games before this. Whereas, like, that was just like a one off with what, the Heat did with Bam. And it was to get this one specific thing. This has been 127 games in the making with Shea. So to me, it's a different deal. Like, if you need to manufacture 1 point, late in the game, I think that's much different than manufacturing like 25 points late in the game in a one-off.
So do you think the Thunder should sell out to ensure that Shea gets the record?
Uh, I don't think it'll need to happen. I think Shea will just get it within the flow of the game, especially if they're going to beat the Celtics. They're going to need Shea to score 20 or more. But if it gets dicey, he's sitting at 17. I don't think they should like sacrifice trying to win the game. Like, let's say it's a close game, I wouldn't prioritize the record over trying to win the game, especially like, in the middle of a number one overall or number one seed in the West battle and Shay's MVP and all those things that are going on. You try to win the game first. So I would still prioritize winning the game. If the game is in hand, or if it's not going to affect the outcome of the game, then yeah, sell out to get it. Like I said, I think it's much different when we're talking about 127 games and we're just talking about like a couple of points at the end of this long, long journey.
Oh, yeah, I totally agree. 126 games so far. You just need one more. I think everybody understands or should understand that Shea should go for the record, right? And if he's sitting
Yeah,
at 17
absolutely.
in the fourth quarter, make sure he gets enough shots to hit the record. Um,
Yes.
one last comment about Bam's game. He took 43 field goals. He took 43 free throws, 22 3-pointers. If Shea had that stat line, 43 attempts from the field, 43 free throws, how many points do you think Shea's scoring that night?
Oh, he's probably beating Wilt. Let's be honest. Like, his efficiency, if he were to put up that many points or that many shots, that many free throws, because his efficiency is ridiculous. Especially, and that's the other part of this. It was against the tanking Wizards team. I think this is kind of a byproduct of the Wizards tanking and not caring. That's a part of it too. But yeah, Shea probably gets like 105.
I like that. I like that. Well, from one superstar to a budding superstar, maybe. Let's talk about Jaylin Williams. I'd say that against the Nuggets, he had his best game ever as a member of the Thunder. Not his top scoring game because he had 30 a week prior, but 29 points, 12 rebounds. He had the Jokic assignment on defense. Has Jaylin Williams had a breakout season this year?
Yes, 100%. It's been pretty special what he's been able to do this season. If you remember back, Jay Will being drafted in the second round, he wasn't supposed to be a shooter. He wasn't really supposed to be much of a defender, really. Like he took all the charges, and that was really cool. But what he's turned himself into through just sheer hard work and development has been unbelievable. He's become such an improved defender. He really can shoot the ball. 7 of 11 from three against the Nuggets, and the Thunder needed all of those to put up 29 points and 12 rebounds. He's improved on the boards. He's improved his physicality. To go and match Jokic, play 40 minutes going up against Jokic, defending him as the only healthy big on the team, and then also score 29 points on the other end and shoot 7-11 from three. I think it's easily his best game as a pro. And I do think that he has broken out this season. And they needed him with all the injuries to iHeart and Chet and just the injuries up and down the roster this season. They've needed Jay Will, and he stepped up. Whenever Jay Will starts, you almost expect like a near triple double and for him to make an impact on the game. And this is coming from your third big. And some people might have thought that he was going to be the fourth big once the Thunder drafted Thomas Sorber. He's been unbelievable. He's easily, to me, the best third big in the league. And he could start on some teams in the NBA, absolutely. And when he does start for the Thunder, he always plays really, really well, makes a winning impact.
Well, and maybe it is a question of how X or Twitter does its aggregation and its AI interpretation of trending topics. But the other day on my feed, it said a trending topic was the Thunder fans discussing whether Jay Will's performance has rendered Hartenstein dispensable. What are your thoughts on that?
I wouldn't go that far, just because we've also seen how important, Hartenstein is to what the Thunder does. And he's a different kind of center than what Chet and Jay Will are. Like his physicality, his strength, like his rebounding, also his playmaking from the post, his little push shot that he does, like to have that as an outlet when the rest of the offense is breaking down. And you don't just need two bigs. You really need three bigs, especially with injuries and especially certain matchups and things like that. So no, I wouldn't say that Jay Will has made Hartenstein, dispensable. I think, like that meme or that gif, like why not both? Like why not both? Like I think you need both of them.
And on top of that, we still have the rest of the season to play out. Hartenstein, Jay Will, none of them are going anywhere. And I think for the Thunder's push to repeat, having a front court of Chet, Hartenstein, and Jay Will the way he's been playing gives the Thunder an edge against virtually every other team.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I will say this, if the Thunder do have to make some hard decisions on salaries and you can't pay everybody, if for some reason you were going to have to let go of Hartenstein, you do feel better knowing what Jay Will can bring. And you do still have Thomas Sorber. You wanted to see him play. But Jay Will has played good enough to where, like, if he was your second big, that's not the worst thing. That's a really good second big. But no, Jay Will has been, he's been awesome.
Well, let's talk about another second round pick. Ajay Mitchell made his long awaited return from a 20-game absence. And it was like he never left. I mean, he just came right back and played at a high level. You couldn't tell he missed any time at all. What a great game from AJ.
Yeah, that was unbelievable. That was, you always expect players he had missed 20 games. He hadn't played since January 21st. And when that happens, you just expect those guys to come in and kind of get their feet wet, play a few minutes, maybe put a couple shots up, try to get their rhythm back, try not to interfere with, things are obviously working. The Thunder in the middle of a win streak. But nope, he just comes in and he dominated from the jump. Like he scored double digits in the first quarter. And the Thunder offense is so much different when AJ is out there because you have a second ball handler, shot creator, playmaker next to Shai, or when Shai sits, now you're not scrambling for scoring and points. When Shai sits, you have somebody that can run the offense. So it just looks so much smoother out there when AJ is out there. I could not believe he looked like he didn't miss a single game after missing 20 games. That was so impressive. And again, just like with J. Will, they needed everything from AJ. Like if AJ doesn't play that game, if he doesn't return when he did, the Thunder don't win that game.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for the NBA at large too, I mean, they kind of look at AJ as like, oh, how did the Thunder get another second round guy who's a contributor? But AJ's not just a contributor. He's a key part of the offense. And as you noted, I mean, the Thunder don't win that game without AJ's contributions, and having him back, is a difference maker for this team. So the 20 games the Thunder had to survive without AJ is actually impressive in its own right. But he's made himself, I think, one of the Thunder's top players. If you were to rank the top 5 Thunder's best players, where do you put AJ in that list?
Yeah, like I think AJ is legitimately either 5 or 6 now. Like obviously Shea, Chet or Dub, whichever order you want to go, Chet or Dub when they're both healthy and on the floor. Then I think Hartenstein. Then I think 5th. You could argue that AJ is 5th. Maybe Caruso. Obviously, some nights maybe Lou Dort. But I think he's right there in that cluster. And if you want to put AJ 5th, I want to argue with you. I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense. AJ might be the 5th best player on the Thunder. I would say it's either him or Caruso, personally.
Yeah, I agree. And as I put in my write-up from the Nuggets game, I put him at number 5 in my list of top 5 best players. And it's kind of mind-boggling to think about how the Thunder's 5th best player. I mean, this is a championship roster, right? It is loaded with talent. This was a team that everybody said is the deepest team in the league. And the 5th best player is a second-round pick in his second year in the NBA who hasn't even played 80 regular season games yet.
And he wasn't in the rotation for a championship run. So they're adding basically a 5th best player that wasn't a part of the championship run. He played a few minutes here and there in the playoffs, but not really in the rotation. And he went from what you kind of thought that he was going to be a luxury. I think now he's a necessity. Like you need Ajay Mitchell out there. He is a true difference maker, an X factor for this team. So to add a guy like AJ Mitchell to the rotation after winning the championship is crazy.
Yeah, well, Thunder are loaded, and we're starting to see more and more that depth come back into play as the team gets healthier. Hopefully, we can get Jada back soon. I think you and I have talked about this, multiple times, both on the pod and outside of the pod. What would really be helpful would be for the Thunder to get everybody back and have a good 10-game run so that you can get used to playing with each other. You can get your rotations locked down and ready for the playoffs. I don't know. Do you think that's a possibility of happening? Are you hearing anything on J-Dub's return?
Yeah, I think it's a possibility of happening. We haven't been given any sort of update on J-Dub's return, but if you look at his timeline of being reevaluated, the 2 weeks has come and gone. And, so you feel like he's close. I think they're going to be extremely cautious and conservative because of the type of injury that it is. And they're always kind of tricky and they can come back. So especially with the way that they're winning right now, I think they're going to be extremely conservative. That said, when he comes back, I think they will have at least a 10-game ramp up to have all their guys and to get some rhythm going into the playoffs all playing together.
Well, for this next segment, and I don't want to keep harping just on the impressive win against the Nuggets, but that does take the Thunder to 3-0 against Denver, at least coming into the season, and really up until the other day. Cray was in town. He went and covered the Warriors game, but he and I were talking before that game, and I was kind of talking about potential threats to the Thunder repeating in the West, and I had mentioned Denver. They're, I think, in the 6th seed now, kind of borderline 7 seed. In the West, Who do you see as the Thunder's true threats?
I think it's the Nuggets and Spurs. I know the Timberwolves, they're a great team and they've made 2 straight Western Conference Finals, but the Thunder handled them in 5 games last year and just dominated them. And they didn't get better. They lost Nickeil Alexander-Walker from that rotation. The Lakers, obviously, Luka, LeBron, Austin Reeves, they have a lot of offense, but they have such issues defensively and with their depth. And at the center position, I just don't think that they're threats. To me, it's the Nuggets and Spurs. Like those are the 2 teams that I look at as, and the Rockets. The Rockets have issues with one-way players, either all offense and no defense or vice versa. And in the playoffs, I think that's going to hurt them, and their guard play, I think, will hurt them in the playoffs. So I don't look at the Rockets as a threat. I think it's the Nuggets and the Spurs. I think that obviously the Thunder are 3-0 against the Nuggets, but all those games have been close, competitive games. Obviously, the Thunder haven't been healthy for those games, so you feel good about that. You feel good fact that you beat them in the playoffs last year and tend to kind of have their number right now, but the playoffs are a different animal and they're a great playoff team. And, it's still Jokic and Murray and Aaron Gordon, and they haven't really been healthy this year either. They're kind of getting themselves back to health right now. And then obviously the Spurs, they went 3-1. I know they went to technically 4-1 against the Thunder, but I don't count that last one. The Thunder didn't have anybody healthy. So I say they went 3-1 against the Thunder this season. And obviously they've been playing great and they have Wemby. So I think to me, it's just the Spurs and the Nuggets as the true threats.
Yeah, can I say that I'm not too scared of the Spurs? Like, yeah, the Spurs went 4-1 technically against the Thunder, but pit the young Spurs, who have never been in this situation before, probably making their deepest playoff run any of these guys on the team have had in their careers, against the defending champion Thunder in a 7-game series. I just am not that worried they could pull it off. Assuming health on both sides.
Right. And historically, we have seen you got to take your lumps in the playoffs. We saw it with the Thunder that year against the Mavs. That was a great, great Thunder team. I think they could have beat the Mavs that year. I think they could have gone to the finals. But typically, inexperience and youth, you don't usually win it your first time. So it's hard for me to see that. I agree with that. Plus, they do have some issues with their shooting, I think, in the playoffs that could bite them. They're a lot of their best players aren't great shooters, so we'll see how that costs them or not in the playoffs. But yeah, I think they're a great team. I think the Thunder are a better team, regardless of the 3-1 or 4-1. And remember the one game that the Thunder won, that was the last game where the Thunder played their guys against the Spurs, and they won in a pretty big way. They won by double digits, and they were clearly the better team that night. The last time that these 2 teams played, when both teams played all their guys.
Let's look over at the East, because the Thunder do take on the Boston Celtics tomorrow night at home. It's a national TV game on Prime Video. The Thunder have recently played the Knicks and won in a close one, 103-100. They lost to the Pistons, 124-116, and then they also had a victory over the Cavs, of 121-113 win. In the East, who do you see as the biggest threats for or impeding the Thunder's chances to repeat?
I mean, I guess the Celtics, now that Tatum is back, the fact that they're the number 2 seed in the East and they added Jason Tatum to the rotation, but I still just don't see like their bigs. Like, who's going to deal with Chet and Hartenstein and Jay Will? I have a hard time seeing it. As great as they've been and as good a story as that is, I have a hard time seeing it. I think the Cavs are sneaky good if they're healthy, adding James Harden. They've been really good since they made that trade, and they haven't really been healthy. If they were to get healthy, Donovan Mitchell, Harden, Mobley, and Jared Allen. I have a hard time believing in the Pistons in the playoffs because of their offense, because of their shooting. Their defense will translate. I just don't think they have enough offense and shooting in the playoffs to win a championship right now. So to me, I guess I would say the Cavs and the Celtics.
Yeah, and I'll be interested to see how the Thunder match up against the Celtics now that they have Tatum back. I mean, the Celtics have been a really good story, better than people expected coming into the season, being without Tatum virtually the entire year. Jaylen Brown has had a really, really good year. And the Celtics defense has been, to their core, excellent. So, this will be a great measuring stick game for the Thunder. And I assume that the Thunder, though, will be without J-Dub. Do you think Chet's going to play?
I think Chet will play. He missed these last couple games with the flu. And now that it's going to be a couple days off since then. And he was questionable leading into that game. I think Chet will play. So Chet should be back. Hopefully Caruso is back because he was questionable leading into that Nuggets game as well. So if you can just get Chet and Caruso back, that will be a huge, huge help against the Celtics team.
How do you see that one playing out tomorrow night?
I think the Thunder win. I think the Celtics will be motivated coming off that loss to the Spurs last night, especially the way it happened with Jaylen Brown getting ejected. Probably shouldn't have been ejected. So I think they'll be motivated, and they're a tough out. Tatum isn't fully himself yet. I don't know if Peyton Pritchard is going to play. He's been missing some time. Vucevic is out right now. I think the Thunder will win, but the Celtics will always make it competitive. So I think we'll have another good game. Maybe we get another game winner again from Shai. He's got like 3 in a row.
And looking ahead to the remainder of the season, the Thunder have 16 games left on the schedule. They are 2.5 games up on the Spurs. Put you on the spot here. I'll probably revisit the same question here in a few weeks when we have more data. So Thunder right now, I think are sitting on 51 wins. How many wins do you think the Thunder get, especially with the gauntlet of a schedule they have remaining this year?
Yeah, the schedule is really, really tough, and the Thunder are still dealing with injuries, and we don't know when J-Dub is going to be back or when Hartenstein is going to be back. It is a very, very tough schedule. I will say the Thunder I'll say 63 wins.
All right, so that's 12-4 over the final 16.
Whew, that's tough. Given
tough.
the injuries, given the injuries and given the schedule, that is tough. I'll say 62.
Okay, 62. I mean, 62 wins would be a great year, but is that enough to edge out the Spurs for the top seed, do you think?
I don't know. The schedule is much, much, much more favorable for the Spurs, and they're also healthy, so it's going to be tough. I know the Thunder have a 2.5 game lead, but they only have, a 1-loss cushion because the Spurs have the tiebreaker. It's going to be tough. I think the Thunder will end up being the 1 seed, but it's going to be like razor thin. It could really go either way given the schedule and given the health of the two teams.
Do you think the Pistons can get to 62, 63 wins? I mean, they do have 1 game against the Thunder in the final few weeks as well.
No, I mean, obviously they haven't been playing as well lately. I think that the Thunder will end up with a better record than the Pistons. I think the Pistons probably get 60. Obviously, an easier schedule the rest of the way than the Thunder. It's this. The Thunder are going to be motivated. I will say that. Like, when the Thunder started off at 24-1 and everybody was talking about 70 wins, there was all this talk like, but will they rest guys down the stretch because they'll have the number 1 seed wrapped up? Well, they're not going to have the number 1 seed wrapped up. So they are going to be motivated, and they're going to want to get some rhythm back, like we talked about, getting these guys healthy. So they're going to be trying to win all these games. So that does give them an edge, I think, the fact that they're actually going to try to want to win every single game down the stretch.
Whew, well, it's going to be a fun last few weeks, a fun final 16 games, because again, the schedule was set up for this, but it leads to a very difficult run for the Thunder to close out the year, and they will be fighting for that number 1 seed, both in the West and overall in the NBA. But we get to watch Shai continue to chase greatness and a repeat of an MVP. Anything we missed on today's pod, Brandon?
I think we got it all. This is we covered a lot of topics. Yeah, go watch Paradise.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep watching it. I got a night to watch it since there's not a Thunder game. Although I do have competing demands. We didn't talk about this during the cold open, and if people start turning off the podcast now, they're going to miss out. I have read the book Project Hail Mary already. I read it several years ago when it first came out. I am rereading it in advance of the movie, and so I've got that to get through as well. I've got 8 days until the movie comes out, but I am incredibly excited about it.
Yeah, I'm pumped about it too. I'm excited about it too. I've been trying to stay away from I'm weird. I try not to watch full trailers because I don't want to be spoiled on anything. So I'll watch half of a trailer to just kind of get the gist or get some excitement. But then I'll turn it off because I don't want to be spoiled on anything. So I watched half of the trailer, and it looks awesome.
Wow, I've watched every single trailer multiple times. That's how excited I am. But again, I'm very impressed with the book. It's one of my favorite books of all time, and to the point where I am reading again just so I can be ready for the movie. And my oldest read it as well, so he and I are going to go see it the night it comes out. So, hey, you know what? I think we did a pretty good job. I'm a little bit out of practice. It's been a few weeks, but we had a lot of good things to talk about, and really, I could just sit and simp about Shai for a good 30, 45 minutes easily, no matter what. So there's always something to talk about.
Yeah, he's been unbelievable, and I think he's going to continue to be unbelievable down the stretch, and just further cement the MVP.
Well, that's a great way to end it. That's all the time we have for today. Thanks for tuning in to the Daily Thunder podcast. I'm John Napier, host of the podcast, and he's Brandon Barr, Daily Thunder beat writer. If you enjoy the show, make sure to subscribe to the Daily Thunder podcast on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss any future episodes. And if you like what you hear, do us a favor and leave us a rating and review wherever you get your podcasts. And we'll be back in your feed soon.